Lift up your heart and praise. Lift up your hands and praise. Lift up your voice and praise.
And Moshe said, Hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh your Elohim, Yahweh is one, and you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way, when you lie down and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to everyone worshiping with us at home. Blessing to be here today. It's always a blessing to be with Yahweh's people in Yahweh's house. Amen. Now, I hope we're going to have a little fun today, but I also hope that we're going to have something go on today that will help us in our walk. And that's always a good thing when you can do both. All right? Now, the name of the message today is Aaaaah. Oh. Mmmm. Can everyone say that with me? Aaaaah. Oh. Mmm. See, you got it down already. Now, the reason that I did that is because today we're going to be talking about Shalom. All right? Now, what's this got to do with that? Well, that's the tonal sounds that you make when you say Shalom. Ah, oh, mmm. Right? What does Shalom mean? Peace? Rest, serenity. You know, you ever heard the serenity prayer? Well, I like to just change it around to say the Shalom prayer, you know. And so I say, Yah, you know, grant me the Shalom to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Some people might say tranquility. Completeness. In the fullest sense, it means complete contentment. All right? I thought that was kind of amusing that when we're being soothed, like maybe when you're getting your feet rubbed, for instance, you know, and we make the same tonal sounds, you know, when that you see in the word shalom. We'll sit down and go, ah, oh, mmm. You know, when you're getting your good foot, good shoulder, back massage, it gets easy for the moment to forget about life's troubles. You just let it all go. Actually, it gets easy to forget about pretty much everything else and just feel quite content. Amein? Right? And we make those sounds. Oh. And what's the next one? Mmm. All right. Another peculiar thing is that for the vast majority of us, when our oral cavity is at rest, the tongue defies gravity and it sticks to the top of the mouth where we form the sound represented by the letter L. At this very moment, I know that you are all fooling around with your tongues. And I'm trying to talk to you. All right. Think about it. Pretty much every part of your body, when you relax, it droops. Even your eyelids. All right? But your tongue goes up into the same place where we form the sound represented by the letter L. All right? And while we're getting this massage, when we're getting this massage, if someone is making noise which disturbs us, we won't likely jump up in the middle of all that yelling, "Hey, be quiet! Trying to get a massage here." No, what do? We go, shh. All right? We don't want to upset everything. All right? We'll gently say, shh, which is another sound in the word what? Shalom, which means complete contentment. But it's kind of funny that we can find ourselves ready to make all of the sounds to form the word shalom when completely content like that. How many of you feel completely content all the time? Really? Because if it was any of you, I was going to ask you to come up here and give us some pointers. All right? How many of you feel completely content 50% of the time? 25%? 10%. You feel completely, 1%. Never. We're talking about completely content. That's a problem, Amein. That's a problem. See, we serve a mighty Elohim that takes care of all our needs, and we're not completely content. It's not an uncommon problem, but it is a problem. All right. How many of you would like to raise your level of shalom? Now we got the hands going. Well, if we're going to raise our level of shalom, it's going to take some work. Because if what you're doing was sufficient, you'd have plenty of shalom. Right? And it's not. So it's going to take some work. So we're going to do a little exercise. But if you want it badly enough, you can raise your level of shalom, your level of contentment in your life. So here's the exercise. So do you know what this is? What is it?
Water.
So it's what?
Water.
It's a glass of water. All right. What is the condition of this glass? It's transparent.
The lower half full. Now it's half full.
Okay.
Not half empty.
Half full. Anybody else say half empty? How about a half a glass? How about it is a whole glass, got a hole right here in the top of it. Maybe some might say, well, it's twice as big as it needs to be. That's another way of looking at it. Some might say it's half empty because it's got a leak in it somewhere. I just know it's got a leak in it somewhere. I'm not sure where, but somewhere there's a leak. Another person might say, somebody's been drinking my water. All right? Somebody might say, somebody's drinking my water. Another person might say, what a blessing. Someone left me a drink. Same glass, same contents. Another way to look at this is that this glass is completely full. This glass is completely full. It is full. Half full of water and half full of air. And ain't it great that we got water to drink and air to breathe? You see, it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. The person who says it's half empty, the person who says it's twice as big as it needs to be, the person who says that it's got a leak in it, all right? The person that says somebody's been drinking my water, they all have a lot less shalom than the person who says someone left me a drink. Or the one that says, isn't it great that we have air to breathe and water to drink? You see, those last two are about shalom. Last two are about shalom. So, we see that it's much about our perspective, and there are things in our perspective that can rob us of what? Our shalom. Our shalom. All right? What kind of things can you think of that rob us of our shalom? Worry. That's a good one. Stress. Anxiety. Debt. That's probably going to go back to worry. and anxiety and stress. Depression. That's another one. Anger. Bitterness. Yeah, see, these are all good ones.
Cares of the world are more than the cares of our body.
Oh, man. Worry is a big one. Worry is a big one. It causes many of the other emotions to flare up and makes matters worse. See, worry is fear-based. Anxiety is fear-based. Depending on what's making you angry, it's fear-based. Depression may very well be fear-based. But it all winds up to do with fear in a lot of ways. And fear is one of the emotions which puts us on the opposite end of the spectrum from shalom. All right? Turn with me to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6, we're going to start reading in verse 19. We are going to be on page 922 in the 98 ISR. Matthew 6 and verse 19. Yahshua says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart shall be also. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, all your body shall be enlightened. But if your eye is evil, all your body shall be darkened. If then the light that is within you is darkness, how great is that darkness?" You probably have a footnote down there telling you that this is a Hebrew idiom, a good eye and an evil eye is, good eye is generous, while an evil eye is greedy or stingy. Verse 24. "No one is able to serve two masters, for either he shall hate the one and love the other, or else he shall cleave to the one and despise the other. You're not able to serve Elohim and Mammon. Because of this I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you shall eat or drink, or about your body, what you shall put on. Is not life more than the food, and the body more than the clothing? Look at the birds of the heaven, for they neither sow nor reap, nor gather into storehouses. Yet your heavenly Father does feed them. Are you not worth more than they? And which of you by worrying is able to add 1 cubit to his life's span? So why do you worry about clothing? Note well the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And I say to you that even Shalomo in all his esteem was not dressed like one of these. But if Elohim so clothes the grass of the field, which exists today and tomorrow is thrown into the furnace, how much more you, O you of little belief? Do not worry then, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For all these the Gentiles seek for, and your heavenly Father knows that you need all these. But seek first the reign of Elohim and his righteousness, and all these matters shall be added to you. Do not then worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow shall have its own worries. Each day has enough evil of itself." Now, Yahshua is not saying that it's wrong to have stuff. And he's not saying that we shouldn't care for our bodies or desire to have food for them. He's talking about being preoccupied with things of this world and serving mammon, and being preoccupied with trying to acquire stuff. All right? Remember that he started out with, where your treasures are, your heart will be, and he finishes up by saying, seek first the reign of Elohim and his righteousness. He's saying, don't just be in pursuit of riches. If it brings worry, it robs joy. And do you know what else? It's not trusting Yahweh. It's not trusting Yahweh. Do you know the story about the trouble tree? Some do, some don't. I want to share with you about the trouble tree in a minute, but I want to share with you some quotes that I found about worry, and some of them are pretty good. Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. Worry often gives a small thing a big shadow. Winston Churchill said this: "When I look back on all the worries, I remember the story of the old man who said on his deathbed that he had a lot of trouble in his life, most of which never happened. And all the people said, Amein. Worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow. It only saps today of its joy." Right? The worry tree. This gentleman tells a story about this carpenter that he had hired to restore his old farmhouse, and the carpenter had finished a rough first day on the job. A flat tire had made him late for work, lost an hour there. His electrical saw quit working on him. And then, at the end of the day, his pickup truck, ancient as it says in the story, refused to start. So the gentleman drove him home, and the carpenter sat there in stony silence all the way. On arriving, he invited the gentleman in to meet his family, and as he walked toward the house, he briefly paused at a small tree that was by the front door, and he reached out and he started touching the tips of all the leaves, and then he went, and when opening the door, he went under this amazing transformation. Said that his tanned face, that was all frowned up, began to smile. And he hugged his two small children and gave his wife a kiss. Afterwards, when they were walking back to the car, the gentleman passed the tree, and his curiosity got the better of him. And he said, "What was that you were doing earlier? Reaching out there, touching the tree?" And he said, "Oh, that's my trouble tree. I know I can't help having troubles on the job, but one thing's for sure, troubles don't belong in my house with my wife and children. So I just hang them on the tree every night when I come home. Then in the morning I pick them up again. Funny thing is," he smiled, "when I come out in the morning to pick them up, there ain't nearly as many as I remember being there the night before." So that's a great story. That's a great story. It's one we could put into practice. Turn with me to 1 John chapter 2. This is going to be something concerning what we just read that YHWH said. 1 John chapter 2. We're going to start reading in verse 15. We'll be on page 1186. First John chapter 2, verse 15. "Do not love the world, nor that which is in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Because all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passes away, and the lust of it. But the one doing the desire of Elohim remains forever." How many times do we allow the lust of some things or the pride of life to rob us? That shiny bauble or whatever it is, you know. Could be. It could be. Do you ever feel like a rat running on a wheel trying to catch that thing that we're never going to get? And what you mentioned in one of them, I got it. You ever feel like that rat running on that wheel trying to catch that thing that we're never going to get? We need to focus on the things that matter if we're ever going to have shalom. Right? And what did YHWH say? The reign of Elohim and His righteousness. All right? Turn with me to Psalm 34. Psalms 34. we're going to be on page 663. Psalm 34 and verse 11. Come, you children, listen to me. Let me teach you the fear of Yahweh. Who is the man who desires life? Who loves many days in order to see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek. Now it says peace there, but what do you think that word is? Shalom. Seek shalom and pursue it. This is telling us that shalom is something to be hunted for. All right? I told you that we were going to need to do a little work, Amein. All right? Psalm 119. We're going to start reading at verse 164. Page 717. Psalm 119, verse 164. I have praised you 7 times a day because of your righteous right rulings. Great, what do you think that word is? Shalom. Peace have those loving your Torah, and for them there is no stumbling block. Is that not what Yahshua was talking about? Seeking Yahweh's righteousness. Right? One other place, Philippians chapter 4. Page 1140. Philippians 4 and verse 4. Rejoice in Yahweh always. Again I say rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The master is near. Do not worry. What are those next 2 words? At all. But in every matter, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to Elohim, and the peace of Elohim, that's shalom, the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding. You know why Paul said that? Because when you can be in peace during all types of adversity, that defies understanding. All right? The natural man wants to be upset about it. All right? And the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding, shall guard your hearts and minds through Messiah Yahshua. For the rest, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is righteous, whatever is clean, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good report, if there's any uprightness and if there is any praise, think on these. And what you have learned and received and heard and saw in me, practice these, and the Elohim of Shalom, peace, shall be with you. And I rejoiced in Yahweh greatly that now at last your concern for me has revived again, though you were concerned but had no chance. Now that I speak concerning need, I have learned to be content in whatever state I am. This is shalom. All right? I know what it is to be humbled. I know what it is to have in excess. In any and every situation I have learned both to be filled and to be hungry, both to have in excess and to be in need. I have strength to do all through Messiah who empowers me. Isn't that great? Right. Do you suppose that Paul has a perspective where he sees that that glass is full and it's got what we need in it? It's replete to overflowing. He's been down, he's been out, he's been riding high, and he has learned to be content no matter what. There was this man that flew into Chicago, and he hired a taxi to take him downtown, and as they were riding along, they came to a red light, and that driver, he went. The man said, "Hey, that light was red. You're supposed to stop." The driver said, "Yeah, I know, but my brother does it all the time." Well, soon they came to a second red light. And again, right straight through the red light. Passenger said, "You're going to get us killed." "That light was red. Why didn't you stop?" The driver said, "Don't worry about it. My brother does it all the time." Well, they keep going down, and the next thing they come to a green light. And what do you think he did? He stopped. The man said, "The light's green. Now's the time to go. Why don't you go on through it?" The driver answered, "I know it's green, but you never know when my brother may be coming through." All right. Who had shalom? The passenger or the driver? See, it's all about changing our perspective. I don't have any diagrams today, but hopefully we've talked about this enough for us to be familiar. I want to talk about the pictograph for the word shalom, with the ancient pictograph letters in it. All right. Do we know what the first letter is for the first Hebrew letter for the word shalom? Sheen. It's a sheen. All right. Now the pictograph for the letter sheen, does anybody remember what it is? Looks like two buck teeth. Yeah, it looks like two teeth. All right. What we understand about ancient Hebrew is that the letters represent the function of the picture. All right. See, teeth cut in two. They also press against a thing, and press is one of the definitions for the pictograph of the letter sheen. The next letter in shalom is what? Lamed. All right. Now, do you remember what the lamed is represented as? It's a shepherd's staff or hook. Okay. It's a shepherd's rod. Now, what is a shepherd's rod used for? To guide. What'd you say? Yeah, but by using them to guide them and direct them in the way that they should go. It can also mean hook. All right, then the letter Wah. This one might be a little harder. Some people say Vav. Do you remember what the letter Wah is? It's a tent peg. All right, it's a tent peg. All right, and a tent peg is used to secure something, to make it stable, etc. And the last one is the letter Mmmm. You remember what the Mmmm is? It's water. It's water. And it can mean water. But it can also mean chaos. That's because it's moving so, and oftentimes it's quite rushing and so forth. And if you'll remember, Yaakov said to Reuben, "You are as unstable as water." All right? Now, unless water is restrained, like in a glass or something like that, it's typically in a state of movement. It's typically in a state of movement. And water can do a lot of damage. Water can do a lot of damage. Yahweh destroyed the earth with water. Covered the whole face of it. All right? So I started wondering how these letters might relate to the word shalom. I thought perhaps it gives us a picture somehow of being pressed and guided into a place of stable water. When you think about the serenity of a lake where everything's nice and calm, and I wondered if there was a connection. Now, I don't know how I found myself here. Perhaps Yahweh just guided me to this. But let's turn to the 23rd Psalm. That's going to be on page 657. Everybody's familiar with this. All right. Psalm 23, verse 1. Yahweh is my shepherd. Now, what do you think a shepherd's going to have? He's going to have a shepherd's rod. That's not far-fetched. Yahweh is my shepherd. I do not lack. If you have no need of anything, what state should you be in? Shalom. All right. You should be completely content. Yahweh is my shepherd. I do not lack. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. This is Shalom. All right? This is actually the pictograph spelled out in these words. All right, watch what I'm talking about. He makes me to lie down, presses me, the sheen, in green pastures. He leads me. What's a shepherd's staff for? For direction. He guides me. He leads me. Beside still, right? There's your tent peg. Secure, calm. Waters. There's your Amein. All right? This is Shalom. Right there. Isn't that cool? He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He turns back my being. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. That's what YHWH was talking about when he said, don't worry. When I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread before me a table in the face of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over, sort of like this one. Only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Yahweh to the length of days. This psalm is about Shalom. All right? A psalm about not worrying, about not seeking your own, but seeking Yahweh's righteousness. I thought it was really cool that you could see the pictograph spelled out in it, though. You know, we read this at funerals a lot, right? To comfort and reassure the survivors. Would we not do well as survivors to consider this psalm for our reassurance and comfort when we're not at a funeral? Amein. Part of getting that perspective is trusting Yahweh and getting our emotions in check. Now, I want to read something to you that Debbie sent me one time. It's about little girls, but I think it's something that we boys could learn from as well. This lady writes, I have a flock of daughters, with 4 of them 5 years old and under. I've seen at least 2 ladies go. It should come as no surprise to you that we deal with a walloping share of emotions at our house. Our one son, Titus, is so simple. Of course, he is also still 2 years old, just right up the middle and easy. He either disobeys or he doesn't. I'm sure that he will grow into more difficult problems, competition for one. But right now, there are no subtexts with this kid. But girls are different, and sometimes that difference can leave a person completely bewildered. One of our sweet little girls has a hilarious tendency that we refer to as her drunk driving. If she is tired, she becomes reckless and disobedient. Her eyes get a little glassy, and she gets super rowdy, and you might find her unloading the freezer or coloring her sheets with a marker or some such clearly outlawed activity. Once when she was in the midst of one of these times, I caught her on the kitchen counter getting into something. Surprise was my first response. What are you doing? Her immediate response was to throw her hands up over her eyes in shame. It was at that moment I realized that she didn't know what was causing it either. As an adult, I have been there myself. I have been there myself. Right? She was just as surprised as I was to find herself being so delinquent. It wasn't any kind of deep malice that got her into those cupboards looking for chocolate chips. It was just a simple lack of control. So next she says, don't play whack-a-mole. That little glimpse has really shaped the way we deal with all kinds of behavioral issues. Sometimes parents can discipline behaviors over and over and over like we're playing whack-a-mole. There is a sin. Get it. But the real problem is that the child doesn't know what to do. You ever done that? I have. There's been plenty of times I do the same thing over and over, not knowing what to do. Say it's someone else's birthday. Say your child wants a present too. Say they start fussing about it. Imagine that you say, don't do that. That is bad. Don't be a fusser. Deal with it. How did that help anyone? The child is taught that if the feeling comes over them, they have already failed. That is bad. But what am I supposed to do with it? It doesn't just go away by itself. Little girls need help sorting out their emotions, not so they can wallow in them, but so that they can learn to control them. All right, now, and here comes the beauty of this whole article. All right? Riding the horse. We tell our girls that their feelings are like horses, beautiful, spirited horses, but they are the riders. We tell them that Elohim gave them this horse when they were born, and they will ride it their whole life. Elohim also set us on a path on the top of a mountain together and told us to follow it. We can see for a long way there are beautiful flowers, lakes, trees, and rainbows. We are little girls after all. This is how we walk in the light as He is in the light and have fellowship with one another. 1 John 1:7. When our emotions act up, it's like the horse is trying to jump the fence and run down into a yucky place full of spiders to get lost in the dark. A good rider knows what to do when the horse tries to bolt. You pull on the reins. You turn the horse's head. Get back on the path. We also tell our girls that Elohim told us if we see one of them with her horse down in a mud puddle spitting at people who walk by, it is our job to haul them up, willing or unwilling, back to the path. The ways that this has helped me as a mother are pretty obvious, but I will share them anyway if you will bear with me. I said 4 steps. First, the horses are not the problem. There's nothing wrong with emotions. If we have a little rider who is woefully unprepared to control her horse, well then, we had better start with some pretty serious riding lessons. Second, talk to your daughter about, or your son, talk to your daughter about how they might feel and what you want to see when they do. Give them some practical handholds. Be a coach. Third, anticipate moments that might be hard, when the horse might bolt, and help them to anticipate it too. Take a little break to say, hey sweetie, we're going in this store, but we aren't going to buy any toys today. If you start feeling like you want to fuss about it, what are you going to do? And then make a plan. Finally, give lots of praise when you see her overcoming little emotional temptations. Be right there with her as she learns to recognize what is happening. Well, wouldn't my life be a lot easier? Wouldn't my life be a lot easier? Little girls can be scared out of their minds when their emotions charge off with them. They need the security of parents pulling them back. The goal is not to cripple the horse, but equip the rider. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? The goal is not to cripple the horse, but to equip the rider. A well-controlled, passionate personality is a powerful thing. But a passionate personality that is unbridled can cause a world of damage. If you see a lot of passion in your little girls, don't be discouraged. It is just a wonderful raw material. Our house is pretty near full to overflowing with this kind of raw material. All right? But don't treat it lightly either. Runaway horses can be a very real threat to your little girls. And do you know what? it can cause a lot of trouble for us big boys and us big girls too. Amen. The horse can do a lot to take away our shalom. It's hard to go, when you're getting dragged down through the briars and over all those rocks with your foot caught in the stirrup. And you're also more likely to let go of the reins. I'd say that we could all learn something from this horse tale. Couldn't you? Don't you? I just want to say before we conclude that besides our emotions, we have got to learn to trust in Yahweh. All right? Lean not on your own understanding. Know Him in all your ways, and He makes your path straight. It's a lot easier to say, don't worry, than it is to not worry. Amen? All right. But I can tell you it's like a lot of other things. The more you exercise it, the better we get at it. The more shalom we will have. And so we're going to read Psalm 23:1 one more time. Yahweh is my shepherd, I do not lack. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He turns back my being. He leads me in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. And when I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for You are with me. Your rod and Your staff, they comfort me. You spread before me a table in the face of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Yahweh to the length of days. Hallelujah. Oh yeah, and there's this one little blessing that we say every time we conclude a message. Yavrekeka Yahweh ba'ishmareka ya'er Yahweh panabaleka bikuneka. Yasa Yahweh panabaleka bi'asem laka shalom. Yahweh bless you and guard you. Yahweh make His face to shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahweh lift up His face upon you and give you His complete contentment.